Oh my goodness. Thank you, Jerry. Woo. Same here. When I think of you, Jerry, I think about someone who's truly in their heart of hearts carrying the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And many, many people I know that I know what kind of program they work. People that actually live with a primary purpose to stay sober and carry the message to other alcoholics, others to stay sober. Not just sober, not physical abstinence, but actually hardcore carrying the message, a message of depth and weight taken from the manual that we have, this amazing basic text that we have, the Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So thank you for asking me. My name is Tali. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My sobriety date is April 26, 1990. I just celebrated 32 years a week or two and a half weeks ago. And thank you. I have a sponsor. Her name is Laura. She's in Texas. I sponsor a bunch of women and they sponsor other women. And I'm actively working steps 10, 11, and 12. I also have a home group. It's Literature Ladies here in Colorado. And thank you to my sweet friend, Sylvie, that showed me the ropes and took me to this group because I'm absolutely feeling so confident that this group practices the fifth tradition, carrying the message to the alcoholic. As a group, to the alcoholic who still suffers. And if you're new and you think, what the hell is she mentioning the traditions even? I thought the same way until for a while. Then I realized, yeah, they're very important, but I'm not going to practice them. It's not, the rules don't apply to me until I met a few other people, but Carrie B, she's over here on the call. And that girl just absolutely changed my life with a message of depth and weight, not just about the steps, the traditions, and the concepts. And so thank you, Carrie, for doing this all over the world. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Jerry, how long do I have to speak?
You have till 5 till the hour.
Okay. Okay, a long time. So maybe you'll get a little bit longer drunk-a-log, but I'm going to try and keep it to sobriety. I am originally from Israel. I'm the youngest of three. Hold on, I'm going to put the AC on. I'm the youngest of three. I come from Israel. I don't know if anybody else in my family is an alcoholic. I know I grew up in a lot of chaos with a lot of fear, a lot of screaming and yelling and violence. And either a table was flying on the wall or a person was flying on the wall. And generally my father was making everybody fly. And when he wasn't, my brothers did. And that had preoccupied my mind. And I kind of took it personally. When I told my mom that this was going on, she thought you must have started it. And I just thought I wasn't worth saving. I wasn't worth rescuing. And it wasn't like a conscious thought, but like on a gut level, I thought if I was really worthy, she would have been there, right there. And, thank God for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, because many years later, I was able to see that what she came to the table with was very, very few cards. She didn't even have a full deck to play with. So later on, when I realized, doing a few inventories later, I could see, when I'm looking at selfishly, where was I at fault? I expected her to be someone she couldn't ever. I expected her to do things that she couldn't ever, that she didn't see happen. The betrayal that she had experienced was just the same. And so, anyways, I picked up my first drink at the age of 15. And I've seen and experienced things that little girls should not. And when I picked up my first drink at the age of 15, I was at the wedding. At an Israeli wedding in my neighborhood, from a girl from my neighborhood. And in Israel, at any reception or any kind of Shabbat dinner, you will have a lot of hors d'oeuvres on the table. And I drank 2 very, very large glasses of whiskey, Johnny Walker Red, and this much Coca-Cola. My friends had poured it to me sitting at the table. And I face planted in the hummus before the wedding even begun. Like my face, I was carried outside. My whole face was white with this mushy stuff. Those of you that don't know what the hummus is, it's like mayo, basically. Face planting in that was not a good experience, but I was taken outside. One of my friends held me up, and the other guy stuck his finger down my throat to make me throw up so they could take me home. Everybody was scared of my dad, so they needed 2 of them to carry me home because I was so scared. To tell you that I fell in love with drinking, that it was an amazing experience, no, I was disgusted with how it felt. I didn't even feel a buzz. I think I went from fully awake to fully passed out. So it wasn't even, oh yeah, that felt good. It wasn't like I couldn't wait to do it again. I was like, that's okay. You could keep this. You could keep this. It's not my thing. And you could find me really on page 21. Carrie has it tattooed, actually, from the 21 Club, page 21 Club. So it says, but what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. So like I said, I was not an alcoholic from the get-go. I probably was born an alcoholic, but I was not reacting physically. I did not develop the phenomenal craving right from the first time. I put it on hold for a little while. And at that particular time, also at that same age, 15, even though I was a good student, I couldn't sit and concentrate anymore in class because I knew I was coming home every day. I was going to get a beating. My brothers, for no reason at all, would just beat me senselessly for no reason. And it was too hard for me to concentrate. It was too hard for me to keep being a good girl that I was. And I just left high school. I think it was the 9th grade, at the age of 15. And my mom had a meltdown and begged me to go back to school. If she took me to Europe, will I be okay going back to school? So I said yes. And when we went back to Israel, I went back to school. And after being in England and Scotland and went to a few places with her in Europe, and when I came back to Israel, while I enrolled in school, I don't know if I lasted 2 weeks or 2 months, but I was gone. I couldn't sit still. Like I said, I was a good student. Nobody knew why I quit. I didn't even know why I quit, other than the fact that I couldn't put up with authority. I couldn't put up with coming home and getting abused by my brothers. So I don't know what I was thinking, if I wasn't in school. It allowed me a lot of gallivanting and hanging out in the neighborhood with all the bullies down the block. And I was at the same time also introduced to some other condiments outside alcohol. And I thought, wow, look at that. I got instant popularity now. Instant popularity. I felt like I was the cutest, the funniest, the most fun to be around. And look at all these friends I have. And I don't know how I floundered around. At the age of 18, I was recruited to the army. Everybody is recruited to the army in Israel. You have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to get out of serving in the army. And I was not about to do that. But the army was another very disheartening, very heartbreaking experience for me also. And a year into my service, I asked my boyfriend at the time to please marry me so I could be released out of the army. So I was released out of the army, and my drinking had continued to take off. Shortly thereafter, this marriage, I divorced him because we had absolutely nothing in common. In fact, this guy liked to smoke a joint every single night. We had hashish in Israel, and I was disgusted with that. I said, what a loser. who wants to just smoke a joint and then, no, I want to go places in life. Little did I know, he was the one who was going to go places in life and I was going to stay around the corner. So I divorced him and I started working at a private membership nightclub in Tel Aviv. It was all the rich and famous people in Tel Aviv would go to. Everybody that was coming from Europe and from other places in the world come to Israel, celebrities and supermodels. Julio Iglesias, I waited tables on him and his entourage, and Grace Jones, and this was all, all the fun people that I was so interested of being just like them. And I was able to hang out with them and then party with them and drink with them. And I thought, who cares where I come from? Because I no longer belong there or them. Forget them. And so there I was hanging out with these people. And I met this multimillionaire Jewish guy from Belgium that wanted to bring a good Jewish girl to meet his parents. I tried to be the best girl ever, but I wasn't the best behaved. When we went skiing in the French Alps, my behavior was not stellar. And he was absolutely heartbroken in one of my escapades, and then put me on an airplane the next day, never to talk to me again. Never to talk to me again. I made a number of attempts to reach him, even to my sobriety, trying to make amends. And I don't know if God was protecting him or me, but I have yet to run into him. People with that kind of wealth are not really listed on Facebook or any other social media. These people are not walking the street parading their money. And so I think he had enough with the likes of me, and probably went into hiding after that. And so I was hanging out in Tel Aviv. I went back to that that private membership nightclub. I actually called it Le Club, and continued to wait on tables and hang out and party and enjoy all these people. And it was just absolutely fantastic. I ate all the best food ever. I drank top shelf, and just absolutely enjoyed all of it. But my drinking had continued to increase. I was drinking a ton, and I was using, like I said, some outside issues, and life has started to catch up to me. I didn't know what I could do at that point. My mom left the country and she went to England. She stayed in England. She was in London for a couple of years. And she wasn't successful finding a life over there. Oh, let me just describe to you the level of communication in my household. My mom wanted to leave my dad, so she left the country. He came home from work and found a note on the table, on the dining table. Don't look for me, I left the country. And you can imagine how communicative I was, how things have gone down in my home. And so she was in England for a couple of years. And then it didn't work out for her over there. Then she went to New York. When my life was closing in on me in Tel Aviv, and I could no longer breathe, and I felt like something terrible was going to happen, I was going to change countries. And so I left Israel. And I too went to New York. I thought my mommy finally will be the mommy I wanted her to be. She wasn't that the first time. I don't know what possessed me to think she will be now, second time. But she tried the best she could. She was a lovely, lovely lady. And I wreaked such havoc in her life. And when I came, it was all exciting. We had just a wonderful time. And 2 weeks after I got there, as I thought, I'm not going to drag with me all those terrible memories and the people in Tel Aviv and the experiences and the drinking and the drugging. And there I am in New York, and it's going to take me forever before I meet anybody of this bad crowd. And it took 2 weeks. And I was working as a waitress at an Israeli restaurant, and I met husband number 2. And oh boy, he was handsome. And you know what impressed me about him? He was a used car dealer. And every night that he would come to this restaurant The first thing he would do, I would pay attention is how clean he was. His shirt was ironed and I forget how to say it in English. When the material is so stiff and so, you could see the seams, everything was ironed perfectly from the cleaners. And he walked first straight thing he did is he walked towards the faucet, washed his hands a number of times. And I was so impressed with that. That's all it took for me to fall in love. He was clean. He looked good. He drove a nice Lincoln Town car and I was so impressed. And 2 weeks after I met him, I was driving a Camaro, a gift from yours truly. And I was so impressed. Oh my goodness. Shortly thereafter, I explained to him how important it is for him since he's so old. He's 14 years older than me. It's so important for him to have children. So let's get married and have children. And both of us were so well thought out. Everything was so planned in life that he agreed. He agreed. Within no time, we were married and I was having a baby. And if you thought I had a bad time in Tel Aviv, New York took it to the 10th degree. More drinking, more drugging. We were drinking, first of all, in all the fancy places with all the fancy crowds. Club A, Studio 54. Sylvie's over here. She knows all these places in Manhattan. All the grandest places to drink and do what everybody else did back in the day in New York. In every club, right there. And we just had a wonderful time. Life started to catch up to my husband and all his colleagues. All those other Israelis in New York were used car dealers. And I actually, one of them was murdered. Somebody came to rob him and shot him. He was found with his head down on his desk. Somebody came to rob my husband and they shot his mechanic over there. We had a bunch of employees and then this one guy, his employee was shot. And I don't know how he somehow made it. But you can imagine, one guy was put to a bar fight through a glass door and bled to death right there in the bar in Manhattan. So we were in Manhattan and we were in all the bars in Long Island and just having a grand old time. And I started to think something is not adding up here. You know, people are dying. These are not good people, fun people, rich people. These are bad people. And some bad stuff is going to happen. And I equated them to be bad people. They might not have all been bad people. They might have just been people that, if you're a used car dealer, you have to carry huge amount of cash wherever you go. And that's how they all walked with, you know, stashes and stashes of cash on them. And so I guess they made it, they were made a moving target. And so an attractive target. And so at any rate, so that was it. And life started to catch up. My husband became, first he became rude and disrespectful. Then he became a little bossy. Then he became a little violent. Then he became, I give you the drugs, I give you the alcohol, I take it away. I give you a car, I take it away. And I thought I put up enough with this nonsense. I'm out of here. And when he really became violent, as I left him, he said by the door, he was like, you're going to come back crawling here. You're used to the lifestyle. I said, what lifestyle? You're going to take care of me and the baby? He goes, that's what you think. I don't care about you or the baby. You are crossing the threshold, leaving this place. You'll never see me or get anything from me again. So now I had no car, no money. And he said, you're going to sell all your jewelry. You're going to go and you're going to sell all your jewelry because you too need this alcohol and drugs every day. And I thought, what a great idea. I never even thought that you could sell jewelry. And now I had a bunch, a few different pieces. I wasn't, full of jewelry, but I had a bunch. And I thought, this is wonderful. I'm going to take a few pieces of jewelry from my mom, a few pieces of jewelry that he gave me. And here I go. Every day I went and put another piece of my dignity and I pushed it across the counter. Another piece of my humanity, I pushed across the counter. Another piece of my self-respect and self-esteem and my soul, I put on that counter. And then one last time when I went there to this pawn shop, this guy looked at me and he said, look, I want to ask you something. I see prostitutes come here. I see drug dealers come here. I see thieves come here. I see robbers come here. I see all kinds of junkies. Why are you here? And I agreed with him. Why am I there? Because obviously I'm above the rest. And I told him because I had this horrendous husband who wasn't paying me child support, and I have a baby and I need to feed him. And every time, and so the guy almost cried along with me. And every time I went and I put another piece of jewelry on the counter, he took it. He gave me, all the money that he could. And I rushed to the bar and to the drug dealer straight from there. The money never made it to diapers, ever. By that time, life was catching up a little bit harder on me. My mom was getting a little bit disheartened and very, very disappointed. And she would just stand there by the door with tears streaming down her face, crying, please don't leave me. Please don't leave me here with this baby. I need to take him to work. She was working at Simon & Schuster Publishing in Manhattan. She would have to show up with a 2-year-old to the office, 3-year-old to the office, on the subway to the office, and or calling sick. And she was crying. She said, Tali, I'm going to lose my job altogether because I'm calling in sick too often. Neither one of us will have food on the table. And so anyway, I would take a bullet for my mom. I would take a bullet for my son. But alcohol came first. Alcohol came first. No matter what, I had to leave and get out the door and go feed my terrible disease. By that time, it progressed to unbelievable proportions. I wasn't noticing that where I was in life, I needed a woman in AA to explain to me when she asked me about my drinking when I finally got here. When I told her I'm a highly functioning person, I don't know about, and she said, what? Highly functioning? You're Homeless. I'm not going to tell you what else she said. You're homeless. And I said, I'm not homeless. I live with my mom. And she said, yeah. You're 30 years old. You live with your mom. You have a little boy. You can't put food on the table. You can't make a living. Then, I would say you're homeless. And I was shocked to find out a lot of facts about myself. Shocked. I'm really not kidding. Anyway, as my mom started to get disheartened and upset with me, she started attending Al-Anon. And as my mom started attending Al-Anon, these people gave her all kinds of crazy ideas. One of which was, if I don't get my act together and I don't start attending AA meetings, if I don't start getting sober, that she needs to throw me out. So I had a little come to Jesus with her. And I sat her down and I explained to her what she could do with the Al-Anon messages. And she could go back to Al-Anon and tell them the Jewish people never, ever, ever throw their children out. In fact, you could go to any Jewish home and probably find 5 kids. If they're not standing on their own 2 feet, they're out there with their mama. And sometimes Karen is laughing. I think it's funny, but it's not always funny because what this woman had to look at me, and she was terrified of me by that time. On April 25th, 1990, so I started going to AA when my mom, pulled an ultimatum. I started going to AA, and I don't know exactly when I started. I started somewhere around Christmas decorations. I could see the streets decorated as I was walking to the meetings. So I would go to meetings and I would drink, and I would go to meetings and I would drink, and I would go to meetings and I would drink. And I didn't know, how the hell do you guys stay stopped? Why would you even want to stay stopped? I'm having a party. Look at me. All the fun in the world. I just never connected that the fun has been long gone. I was miserable. I was drinking to live and living to drink. That was it. That's all I wanted to do. Nothing else. I could not take care of my child. I could not take care of the home. I could not help my mom. I could not cook. I could not carry any of my commitment. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Remember, from Israel, I was not educated, no profession, nowhere to go, nothing to do. And so I was the joke of AA because I could not get my stuff together to do what you guys were doing. And so April 25th, 1990, my mom came from Israel that day. She was away for about a month, visiting a friend that was diagnosed with cancer, metastasized everywhere. And my mom was leaving after being with her and saying goodbye, and her friends, as soon as my mom left out the door, took a bottles of Valium and died, committed suicide. My mom walked in the door just after her best friend of many years committed suicide because of that cancer. And as soon as my mom walked in the door, I shoved her out of the way. Finally, you're home. You could take care of the baby. I'm gone. And I went out and I went to hang out with one of my friends that I know from Israel. This was in New York. And I ran a couple of blocks down. And I got there and we were drinking and we were drugging, and I took a bottle of tequila, brand new. He had a bunch of drugs on the table. I needed cold medication because all the drugs that I was snorting in my nose were making my nose bleed. I needed cold medicine. I needed Valium. I needed drugs. I needed cigarettes. I needed joints. I needed alcohol. I needed, you name it. We had galore, all of it. And I couldn't smoke enough and drink enough and I drank a whole bottle of tequila straight from the bottle, guzzled the whole thing. And I could not get drunk. I could not get drunk. And my soul left my body. As I'm sitting there on my knees, leaning on that coffee table and snorting and smoking and doing all that madness, all of a sudden my soul left my body. I had a most profound spiritual experience. I didn't know it was a profound spiritual experience at all. My soul left my body and I was on the ceiling looking down. I could see my friend sitting on one side of the coffee table, entertaining himself, if you will. And I could see myself on the other side of the table, having no respect for myself. I took my sweater off and he was just looking at me from the other side of the table, entertaining himself. And I could, like I said, smoking and drinking and snorting and you name it. And as I saw myself, this very power that got my mind out of my body, this very power pulled me up to my feet and got me to the door, and he was screaming, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Oh, I'm in AA." He said, "You what?" And I said, "Yeah." That's after I just downed the whole bottle of tequila. I said, "Well, I don't know how these people are doing it." And I can't tell you I had an intention to quit drinking, or I was hopeless. I didn't think this can work for me. As I'm running out the door, I went home and it was only 2 blocks away. And I begged God to please take me. I can't wake up and do this another day. I cannot wake up the next day and do this again. Let me go. Let me be done with this. And I got home and, fell asleep. And unexpectedly, I woke up in the morning. When I woke up in the morning, I was very disappointed with God, very disappointed with my life. And it was going to be another one of these days. Let me plot and plan. Where am I going to get my next one? How am I going to go to this today? And what am I going to do today? And my mom was shocked. I was home by 2 a.m. I wasn't robbed. I wasn't raped. I wasn't beaten. There was plenty more to go around. But God took me there. When I went to sleep, when I woke up in the morning, I had a girl that I knew from the meetings, the girl that disclosed to me that I'm homeless. She called me and said, "Meet me there at the meeting at 6:00. I said, "No, this thing is not working for me. I'm not coming back." She said, "You have to come back. Please come back. Meet me there at 6:00. I said, "No, I'm not going to be there at 6:00. Anyway, even if I was coming, the meeting doesn't start until 7. She said, "Exactly why I want to see you there at 6:00. When I showed up at 6:00, I stopped arguing. I started setting up the chairs. She didn't let anybody else set up the chairs for a year, maybe. I set up 300 chairs. I set up the coffee pots that were bigger than me, that were so big that my home group had 300 members. That was Queen of Martyrs. And then another one, I had at that time, I thought you could have 2 home groups. I could tell you that you can't. And one vote, one home group, one place to do service. That's it. So at any rate, but I was a special case, so they let me have more than one. And I ran to Kessel Street, and I was there, and over there at the Gardens group, I was setting up all the chairs and setting up the bagels. On Saturday morning, we had an S-Bill Season meeting with bagels and cream cheese. And I was then promoted. I was able to go to the bagel shop and choose what kind of bagels we're going to get. I was able to choose everything: garlic bagels, sesame, raisins. I was allowed to do all these big decisions, make all these big decisions. And as I kept on coming around, before I knew it, I had 30 days. And 32 years later, I get chills every time I think about it, because I hated these people. They bossed me around and told me what to do. You set up the chairs, you set up the books, you do this, you do this. I said, they just needed a friggin' cleaning lady over here. They could have hired one. What do they want from me? My whole life, people been using me. And before I knew it, they saved my life. And before I knew it, I had a year. When I celebrated the year, there was standing room only at my home group. People came from all over because nobody could believe that I could get sober. Nobody could believe it. I couldn't. My mom couldn't. And after a year, I started attending school. I started to treat my mom with a little bit more respect. I started to take care of my child a little bit more than before. And I got a GED. And then it was so amazing. I couldn't believe that I could get a GED in a foreign language. And then I got a 2-year degree, and then I got a 4-year degree, and then I got a doctorate degree. And then I moved to Georgia to go to chiropractic school. And then I opened a clinic, and I graduated in 2002. And my mom got to enjoy a daughter that was sober for 21 years, that would carry out the promises that I made to her, because I was not a good daughter when I was drinking and drugging. She was dying with cancer, with lung cancer, and asked me if I will take the body, to please take the body to bury her in Israel. And at first I thought, who the hell is she to tell me I'm going to take her to Israel? And do you know what it is? What am I going to suffer? The loss that I will suffer? That I will have to take her back to Israel. Never did I think that she's actually, like, it's her last dying wish is to be buried near her mom. And I started with all my gymnastics until I said, of course I will. Of course I will. And she died in my arms. And I carried out her wishes, and I took her to Israel. And I was the executor of the estate, tiny estate, but I was the one to pay for the grave, and to pay for the burial, and to pay to bring her, and to get all that stuff going for her. And to go back to New York, and to, after we buried her, and to just, dispose of all her life's work of knitting and a 125-year-old piano that she had, just gave it all away. But I was the designated one. My brothers live in Israel. Guess what? When my mom died, it was no longer about me and my brothers and all the abuse and all of what they did to me. It wasn't about me. It was about my mom. It was about seeing her off, walking her home so she could meet her maker, so she could be at peace. It was no longer about me, this whole drama queen with me and my stuff all the time. It was no longer the case. So I'll go back to the beginning now of my recovery. As I started to recover, besides education, I was working the steps. I was always very busy. I had a 5-year commitment at the detox in New York. Then I had a 5-year commitment at the jail in Georgia when I moved down to go to chiropractic school there. And I always sponsored a ton of women. I always taught the big book. We were reading the big book, working the steps. Had a big book study at my house and all of that wonderful stuff. But I heard a lot of things that at the time just were parroted from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. 90 meetings in 90 days. Don't drink no matter what. Well, if I could not drink no matter what, you think I would be an Alcoholics Anonymous? I would just not drink no matter what. Meeting makers make it. I was a meeting maker, leaving meeting, drinking all the time. This stuff is not true. We are killing people when we're telling them these things. We're killing people when we tell them, when you get to step 2, don't worry about it. Just whatever it is, just imagine that there is a God and you're good to go. No, that's not true. That's not true. The chapter We Agnostic. So we have the preface and the forward to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th edition. Bill's story. There is a solution and more about alcoholism. All of it is step 1. Enough material to know that this is an important step? Yes. Then you go to step 2 and it's a chapter We Agnostic. All this stuff about drop the prejudice, drop the prejudice, drop the prejudice. Okay, I had a lot of prejudice because I was Jewish and all of you were Christians. And I thought, AA is all Christian and me. So at any rate, completely overlooked. Nobody sat me down and said, look at page 55. It says, deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. Sometimes it may be obscured with pomp, calamity, but worship of other things. But it is there. It is there. What? Not only that, it says it is only there that he may be found. Only there that he may be found. You don't have to go to Machu Picchu. You don't have to go to the mountains, the magnificent mountains here in Colorado. You could sit on a park bench being a homeless man and you could find God because God could be found right here. So that was step 2 that I was lacking. Step 3, this is what I was told. It's only a decision. Get on your knees, say the 3rd step prayer, and you're good to go. Huge, huge mistake. Step 3, between pages 60 and 63, have so much information about what kind of a friggin' lunatic I am on any given day, with or without alcohol, especially without alcohol. Stark, raving, sober, lunatic. When somebody took me and sat me down and finally read me those pages, 60 to 63, and told me, Tali, you are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though your motives are good. So you don't know if a good motive, a bad motive, who cares? You're still in collision. If only people would do as I wish, the show would be great. No, it won't. It won't be great. It won't be great. Not to mention that this is a delusion. Anytime the big book says, if only, if anything, that's a delusion right there. So I had those delusions. No. So none of that is actually true. So I did, like I said, a half job with step 2 and half job with step 3. I did inventories galore. Step 5, no problem. I'll tell you the worst things about me so you could help me. Step 6, step 7, step 8, 9, 10, not big a deal. They just said step 10, it's nothing. If you really screw up big time, then you run back real fast and you say you're sorry and you're good to go. Wrong again. Step 10, 11, and 12 are what makes me now or my whole life. Step 10 says continue to watch for selfishness, resentment, dishonesty, and fear. What? The same things from step 4. Wow. Okay. Continue. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We talk to somebody about it immediately. We make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone and turn our thoughts to someone we could help. So we watch for 4 things. We do 4 things. That's for step 10. If we do this correctly every day, all day, every day is a day that we must carry the vision of God into all of our activities. If I do what I'm supposed to do for step 10, guess what? When we get to page 85 on the bottom, when Bill is finished with step 10, he starts on the bottom. We're now at step 11. And then you turn the page and it starts with the nightly review. Why would he start with night? Because if you work step 10 all day, every day, all day, Then you start your work with step 11 at night. You review the day. And then a paragraph with all those questions. The next paragraph after that is what to do upon awakening. Let us think about the 24 hours ahead. You guys know how to read. You don't need me to recite it to you. I'll tell you why I'm saying all this. I'm saying all this because my sweetest girl over here, one of the girls that I sponsor, drank after 25 years. And we often talk about this. Failing to enlarge our spiritual life is what gets us to drink. Failing to enlarge our spiritual life is what gets us to drink. Not because we have a busy life, not because we have a boyfriend, a fiance, a big job, 10 cars, 25 kids. No, none of that. It's when we fail to enlarge our spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others. Then we cannot sustain the trials and low spots ahead. At 22 years of sobriety, I was thinking what would be the easiest way to kill myself. How can I kill myself? And nobody could diagnose me. I couldn't diagnose me. I'm the hardest working person in all of Alcoholics Anonymous. Why do I want to die? And people would ask me, where's God? I pray to God all the time. None of it was helpful. Why? Because I had no idea about step 2. I had no idea about step 3. I was running the show every day of my life. It was my survival skill. I never knew how to take my hands off. Never. I never knew how to face life successfully, like the promises from step 3 on page 63 describe. I never knew that I will be able to do that I will start to feel, the presence of God. And when I finish my creator in after step 5, I never knew that I would feel these things. I never knew that from when I work diligently on step 10, that my whole life will be completely different. That step 10 requires work every day, all day. That step 11, doing something so simple as the nightly review. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves that should have been discussed with another person at once? There are timelines throughout this whole big book. Timeline. The only place it says we rest and take it easy. We don't, only in step 11 when we pause because we're going crazy a little bit. When agitated or doubtful, we pause. Nowhere else in the whole big book of Alcoholics Anonymous does it say, pause, relax, take a break. You deserve a vacation. You worked so hard. Don't worry about step 10, 11, and 12 today. It's all about you. No. Oh, the other thing I heard early on is it's a selfish program. If anybody told you this, tell them to go find a different program to be in, because this is not a selfish program. It's a selfless program. Everywhere in the book it says selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our trouble, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. So when I found myself wanting to kill myself at 22 years, and this lady took me to the steps again and walked me through back with step 3 and 10 and 11, everything changed. Absolutely everything changed. I didn't need to do more service. I didn't need to sponsor more women. I was already sponsoring a ton. I already had the best sponsor in AA. I already was doing everything, or so I thought, that was required, except for 3, 10, and 11. Every time I see people that drink, it's because they did not work step 3, 10, and 11. Every time I see people that drank and died, it's because I know for a fact untreated alcoholism kills among us. You see a person with a long time in the program and you see that they're unhappy, walk up and ask them, what is going on? Do you need my phone number? Do you need help? Do you need somebody walking you through pages 60 to 63 and then steps 10 and 11? Highly likely they're already working step 1 and step 12. I did 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12. So good at 12. But I'm wondering, what was it that I was giving? What was it that I was actually giving back to these women other than cracking a whip with a big book, beating them up over the head with my book. It's different today. I have a different sponsor. She's gentle, she's kind, she's loving. She's taking me immediately to an inventory. Sometimes I forget, I don't want to complain to her about this one pisses me off because immediately she's going to tell me, okay, write an inventory. I don't want to write another inventory. I know I'm selfish. I know I was this and I was that. I was delusional. And she's like, okay, write the inventory. We'll talk tomorrow. So anyway, I hope if you are sick, if you are not sick, we're all sick here. If you are suffering with untreated alcohol, Brandon, I have to tell you, you're in the middle of my screen and I look at your facial expression the whole time. You made a face. Yes. If you are suffering, if you see somebody that is suffering in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, see if you can help take them to steps 10 and 11. See if you can help take them to step 3. Without working step 3, exactly the way the big book tells us to work, people kill themselves. In my belief, the number one reason is that we cannot be successful running on self-will. We cannot. And because we feel so unsuccessful and miserable, the only way out, because I was not interested in a drink at 22 years, but the only way out was to kill myself. Thank God it did not happen. I love all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Deb, for being here. Sylvie, Karen, Melanie. It's 2 a.m. in UK and she's here. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jerry. Carrie B. Yes.